2nd of March, Rabbi Levitt, Pele Yoetz.
Okay, so we're up to the Ve'im Tomar of the Tosfos. Ve'im Tomar. If you will ask a question, my porich mi haikra, what is being asked from this pasuk? He doesn't tell us which pasuk it is that he's referring to over here, but assuming we would assume that the only pasuk that he's referred to so far is the pasuk of Lenachri Sashich. So we would assume the reason that he's not telling us which pasuk that he's referring to is because he feels he doesn't need to.
The Nachri Sashich is in Devarim.
Yeah, that's the Devarim, right? 23:21. You could find it in your Torah or Hashalim. It's the second entry. Okay. So my porek mehaikra. Haloi asur ella midrabanan. Gezerah shema yilmod mimasav. Kidamrinin b'samach. If you'll ask, 1 second, what is the question that is being asked from this pasuk? Why? What's wrong with the question that was asked from the pasuk? We're not going to elaborate on what the pasuk, what the question which is asked from the pasuk right now, because we're going to figure it out from what Tosa says right now. What's wrong with the pasuk? What's wrong with the question that's asked? Because, says Tosas, hello aser ela midrabanan. This prohibition of lending ribis to a non-Jew, this prohibition of what? Prohibition of lending to a non-Jew with ribis is only a rabbinic decree. Shema yilmod mimasav. The Rabbanan answered making this loan to the non-Jew. And this is what the Gemara is going to say later on 71a. Wow, if that is not a I think we did say something about this question yesterday. What the problem that I'm having is because the way I would understand the rabbinic prohibition is that the point of the prohibition, like Tosas brings, we don't want the Jew to learn from the ways of the non-Jew. Now, how is he going to learn from the ways of the non-Jew? By being familiar with him, by having dealings with him, by having business dealings with him, such as giving ribis, such as giving him a loan. We don't want in other words, over here, we don't want, even if the Jew is charging ribis to the non-Jew over here, but we don't even want that, says the Rabbanan, because we don't want the Jew to have business dealings with the non-Jew altogether. Shema Yilmud Libasav. So what's it? If so, then Tosfos is asking, my porek mehaikra. What is the question that's being asked from this pasuk? What was the question that was being asked from this pasuk? Rava was using this pasuk to attempt to disprove Rav Nachman, because Rav Nachman quoted. This is a long chain over here. Rav Nachman quoted Rav Huna as saying that the pasuk in Mishlei, a different pasuk, the Tosfos is not referring to directly at this point, that pasuk was talking about doing the prohibition of lending, of charging ribis rather, and according to Rav Huna, that did not include only lending ribis to a Jew, lending to a Jew for ribis, but also even to a non-Jew for ribis. That was also regarded as illegal conduct. And on that, Rava said, 1 second, Rav Nachman, how could you say that it's usher to lend to a non-Jew for ribis? Because doesn't the pasuk of Lenachri Sashich mandate that this is what we must do? In other words, he was understanding that the pasuk of Lenachri Sashich was saying that one certainly is allowed to, and perhaps it's even an obligation to do so. And so, how can Rav Nachman maintain his position that it's usher to do so, just like it's usher to lend to a loan to a Jew and charge him ribis? So now Tosfos is saying over here, if that was what we were saying from that pasuk, that we want, that the pasuk is saying you have to charge him interest. You got to make him pay for it. He's got to that's what you got to do. The Rabbanim themselves said that they don't want him to make the loan altogether. It's not working. Okay, it's not working. Fine. You know what we do when it's not working? When the question's not working, we go to the answer. And we see if we could figure out what the question was based upon what the answer that Tosfos gives. What was the answer that Tosfos gives over here? Yesh loimar. The Hochi Porech. Says Tosfos, no, we're gonna based upon what Tosfos just asked, the question that we were asking was difficult to understand. Now Tosfos saying, here's the correct way to understand what the question was from that pasuk. Ishlam the Hochi Porech. This is what, like this, was being asked based upon that pasuk. Mihai Kro. Kevin the Amarachmana lenachri sashich. Since it says in the Torah, lenachri sashich, lo haya lehem lechachamim lesor. In other words, it seems as though Tosfos is learning like this. Now, we were saying before, Tosfos was just saying, you have to lend him with, when you make the loan to him, if you do make a loan to him, we didn't say that it was a mitzvah to make a loan to him altogether, but if you do lend him, so then you must lend him with ribis, otherwise you'll be in violation of lo sechanim. Now Tosfos says, well, 1 second. We have a Isser Drabanan of making a loan to him altogether. We don't. The rabbis didn't want him to us to loan to him to have business dealings with him altogether. So now, Tosfos is saying, yes, this was the question over there from that pasuk of L'Nochri Sashich. Since the Torah says L'Nochri Sashich, Lo haya lehem l'chachamim le'asor. It sounds like the Tosfos understanding that Rava's assertion about this pasuk is that it is a mitzvah of sorts to make the loan to the non-Jew, and dafka in order to charge him interest, to get him to pay out more money, to get him to cause him. The goy is anybody, not just the goy. But why does the guy get a loan? Not to cause himself a loss that he's going to now have to pay back more money on the loan, but because he feels, he's confident that he's going to make a 20% profit on this money that he gets. So this that he's got to give 5% for ribis is a good deal, right? He's making a 15% profit with his money. That's pretty good. Money that he didn't have that money, right? So we all understand very well why it is that people are willing to take loans from the bank, even though they got to pay interest to the bank, because they're going to make a more profit than the interest after you pay from the bank. But Tosfos is saying over here that the objective, and actually what I'm doing over here is I am learning this Tosfos based upon an emendation that I have on the side over here from my Gemara. And what they say is that the rationale behind charging interest to the non-Jew is in other words, to cause him to have to pay out more money than he's being lent. So in a certain sense, it's not really true. In a certain sense, you're causing him a lack. You're causing him a lack. He's going to have to pay you more money than he borrowed you, and that's what the Torah is saying that you should do. You should do this. Of course, if you have a Jew to do a bigger mitzvah with, to lend him money that he needs money, even if you're not allowed to charge ribis to him, but that's a bigger mitzvah. But nevertheless, the Torah says if you don't have any Jews, Baruch Hashem, you don't have any Jews that are needing your money over here, and you want to do something with your money. So if a goy comes to you to lend to get a loan, it's a mitzvah to loan him the money and charge him interest, so that you get more out of him than you gave him. And so therefore, if that is what the Torah's rationale for this pasuk, what it says over here, L'Nochri Sashich, it's a shtickle mitzvah to cause a loss to him. So then why did the Rabbanan take away that mitzvah? The Rabbanan are taking away the mitzvah, saying, no, we don't want you to do that to this non-Jew. Not for the sake of the non-Jew, but for your own sake, that you shouldn't have business dealings with him. I don't really understand that either. Obviously, in other words, the Torah wasn't worried about that. So how come the rabbis are worried about it? But they were worried about it. But that's the way Tosfos is explaining. Lo haya lehem l'chachamim le'asor.
What does that mean?
Yeah, it's difficult to understand. We have a mitzvah of blowing the shofar on Rosh Hashanah. And even when Rosh Hashanah falls out on Shabbos, what does the Torah say to do on Rosh Hashanah? It says to blow the shofar. And nevertheless, the Chazal came along and they said, no, we don't want you to blow the shofar if it's Shabbos. They took away the mitzvah. Now, the truth of the matter is that there is a remez in the Torah that the Chachamim found for taking away the mitzvah of shofar on Shabbos, because there's two psukim, and we say those two, and we allude to them in the davening on Rosh Hashanah, which falls on Shabbos. Zichron Trua. We even say Yom HaZikaron, but there's a Zichron Trua, I believe, in the pasuk, and that was what Chazal found. Anyway, that's a side point. But the Chazal, there's a whole sefer by the Maharal called Beragola, where he defends all of the things that the Rabbanan did, lest one think that, oh, what did they do that for? What did they do that for? What did they do that for? And he explains that oftentimes what we see in the Gemara is that they show you what's called an asmachta, an allusion to what it is that they are doing, because they see that the Torah is hinting to them that this is what Hashem wants the Rabbanan to do. And even though it's not a full-blown yalfusa, we would say, it's not what the Torah is commanding to do. This is a very, very involved concept over here that I trailed off into. But they see that this is what the Ratzon Hashem is. So over here, yeah, it's a bit of it's not really clear to me that Tosfos is saying that I don't really know. I don't really know what Tosfos is saying over here.
Well, what do the words mean? Lo haya lahem the chachamim lasur. What do those words mean?
The Chachamim should not have made their prohibition. They should have left they shouldn't have made their prohibition.
So maybe what he's saying is, since there is not a remes in this case, the pasuk is clearly stating that you can do it. Therefore, the rabbis who did not have the authorization to make the gezerah.
Well, the whole it's difficult to say really that that's what Tosfos is saying. Tosfos is not second guessing the rabbis. That's another problem with explaining what these words mean. That's why I didn't want to really go there, and I don't really know what to do with these words, really. I don't really understand them. To me, it's very, very unlikely that that's what Tosfos would be saying. Tosfos is not second guessing the Rabbanan. I was just giving an idea, let's say, that the Maharal said, in order to where we see many times, the Maharal has a whole sefer, as I say. Many times we see that the Rabbanan found allusions in the Torah itself to support what it was that they wanted to do, even though it would seem on the face of it that the Torah is saying that it's mutter. But do the Rabbanan, in fact, need to have an allusion like that? Do they need it? And otherwise, they can't do what they feel they need to do. If they did it, then they know that they got the right to do it. We didn't find anything so far that the Rabbanan did something that was unjustified or unauthorized, or uncalled for. And I don't think the Tosfos is asking on the Rabbanan that they didn't have a right to do that. So that's why I say that I don't understand what Tosfos means, these words. So we didn't understand the question and we didn't understand the answer. So what do we do in that case? Who knows the answer to that question? What do? We're getting weiter. We go forward in the Tosfos. Yes. Okay. The Dorish lay bikra de Shlomo. And now the Tosfos says that 1 second, we even have a further difficulty. We have a pasuk that we have a pasuk in Mishlei. That's what the Tosfos. That's how Tosfos refers to as a kra from Shlomo. We have a pasuk from Shlomo Melech, because Shlomo Melech wrote Mishlei, and that pasuk, that pasuk in Mishlei, Hayde Darshlei Mikra de Shlomo, Afogav de lo asur ela mishum gezera. Afogav de lo asur ela mishum gezera. Efshar de Shlomo gazar. Oh, in other words, there's something else that we have difficult. We are saying in the Gemara that it says that it's that asur to lend to a non-Jew even with ribis, so that it was we see that it was a rabbinic decree. It wasn't, but we would have thought that what Shlomo Melech is referring to is an Issa Torah. That's what we would have thought. And in fact, that's what Rav Huna is maintaining, right? Rav Huna is on the side of saying that that there is a Torah prohibition to lend to a non-Jew with ribis. In other words, not like the rabbis say that, oh, we don't want you to do that because you're going to learn from their ways. That's a rabbinic ordinance. But Lenakri Sashich was in support of the side that what? Afugavdalo asur ela mishum gezera. Even though this that we said that it's usher to loan to a non-Jew with ribis was only an gezera, it's not a Torah violation. We could say that in fact Shlomo was referring to the gezerah that he himself made, and that's what we mean when we say that it's only nisr, it's only a gezerah d'Rabbanan. We mean it's a gezerah that Shlomo Melech made, and he's referring, and he's and this that according to Rav Huna, he's saying that pasuk in Shlomo is referring even to giving a loan, making loads of profit off of a non-Jew. That's what Shlomo was gozer against. That's what Shlomo Melech was gozer against. And the Gemara that we're going to have later on the next page, which says because they did the rationale of it. One might have thought the rationale was because why? Because it's usher to take interest from a non-Jew, just like it's usher to take interest from a Jew. So the Gemara later on is saying, no, that's not the point. It's not the point. The point is that we don't want the Jew doing business with the non-Jew altogether. Whether he charges him ribbis, even if he charges him ribbis, we don't want the whole business connection between the Jew and the non-Jew. And that we're saying is an Isser D'Rabbanan. Now, what does that imply about what the Torah has to say? What the Torah has to say is that it would be permissible, not only permissible, perhaps even a mitzvah, to charge him interest, not only to avoid the prohibition of lo sechanim, that you can't give the non-Jew a freebie, but there's actually a mitzvah to cause him to have to pay out more than what he is being given. Even though, of course, he wants to he wants to get this loan. Nobody's forcing him to ask the Jew for the loan. He's very happy to have this loan.
I don't understand the distinction between the two principles. The one being that we can't give him a freebie because we don't want to do good things for him. And the second one is that we can't charge him interest because,
well, the nafkamina is that because we don't, according to the Rabbanan, they're saying don't have anything. In other words, according to the pasuk of Lo Sechanim, we would be allowed to do business with the non-Jew, right? We do all the business that we want, just to make sure to charge him ribbis, right?
Because you don't want to give him a freebie,
right?
Because you don't.
As far as we know, yeah, right. According to that pasuk, the pasuk doesn't say you're not allowed to give a loan to a non-Jew. You could give a loan to a non-Jew. Just make sure that you don't give him a free loan. That's all. But the rabbis are coming along and say, what?
The other side of it is that we want you to make him pay more.
Yeah, to cause him, so to speak, a deficit.
So you want him to suffer. In other words, you want to make him. They're saying you're charging him interest because you want to make him suffer.
Right. Well, to suffer. I mean, he's you
want to do something bad from his perspective.
I mean,
is that what I'm trying to understand what it means to say that you want him to pay more?
Yeah.
Why do you want him to pay more? Because you want to hurt him?
It's not called. I don't think it's hurting him, but it's. Let's see. How do we explain this? Yeah, this. We need to find where I believe that this concept is in the Gemara. I don't know exactly where it is. I don't know, it could be that I'm thinking right now. It could be that the only thing that it means it's a mitzvah lechasram. I don't know. I don't really know. Don't really know. Don't really know. Okay, so that's that. We do have. So you're asking, what does it mean? That's a good question. What exactly is the idea? What's the point in mind? But that is it would seem to me that it's a different point than the point of the pasuk itself. The pasuk itself is lo sechanim. We're not looking to cause him a chisaron, a loss, but we just have to make sure that we don't give him something for free. That's what the pasuk is saying. But then it seems like we have it seems like the in other words, that's the lo sechanim is saying not just in regard to loans, right? We said also even regard to a compliment or a praise. There's a lo sechanim applies. So it's a very wide-ranging type of a prohibition. That's lo sechanim. Over here, when we're talking about the pasuk itself. The pasuk says l'nakri sashich. So we want to know, what is that all about? What is that? What do those words mean? What are they referring to? And what's the deal over here? So there are those. I don't know whether it's going to be. I would assume that it's something that the Gemara is going to explain later on, but it's a different point than the point of the other pasuk of lo sechanim. And this pasuk is Tosfos' understanding. Tosfos is understanding that this pasuk is saying that there's a mitzvah unto itself, other than to avoid giving him something for free, but there's a mitzvah to charge ribis, not simply so that you won't be giving him something that is for free, but there's a mitzvah itself when you give him the loan, to give him the loan only in order to require him to pay back more than what he's getting from you. That is part of what the pasuk is saying when it says lo sashich, according to Rava, right? According to Rav Huna and Rav Nachman, it's not coming to talk to the Jewish lender at all. It's coming to talk to the Jewish borrower, because they hold that it's usher it's an Issur Torah. According to them, it would seem that it's an Issur Torah to lend to a non-Jew ribis, to make a loan to a non-Jew for ribis. It's an Issur Torah. So Tosfos is saying that, one second, how can they say that it's an Issur Torah? The rabbis came along and they said, we don't want you making any loans to a non-Jew, even for ribis. What do you mean? You can't make according to what Rav Huna and Rav Nachman say. Look, do they disagree with the pasuk of lo sechanim? I don't think so. That would mean you couldn't lend him for nothing, and you can't lend him for ribis either. So how you can make a loan to him altogether, according to them? If so, then how come the rabbis came along and said, you're not allowed to make a loan to him? What do you mean you're not allowed to make a loan to him? The Torah already says you're not allowed to make a loan to him. What did the Rabbanan need to come along and say, don't make a loan to the non-Jew for? The Torah already says, you want to make a loan to him for free? No, lo sechanem. You can't do that. You want to make a loan to him for ribis. Oh, you can't do that either. so there's no, according to Rav Huna and Rav Nachman, you can't make a loan. Doesn't seem. Now, ask me a question. This cannot be what I'm saying. Why? Because they themselves say, how do they explain what this pasuk is saying? Lo sashich.
Well, according to my English, it's a different point. It is saying, what is the meaning of sashich? It's that you may take interest from a non-Jew.
According to Rava.
According to Rava.
But not according, what does Rav Nachman have to say about that pasuk?
Rav Nachman says, no, it means you shall pay interest to a non-Jew.
Yeah. Right.
But we're not talking about taking or paying. We're talking about charging.
Wow, this is quite confusing.
Yes. That I agree with. that statement I understand. This is confusing.
Yeah, so Hadadorish le mikra de Shlomo. Afogav de lo asur ela mishum gezera. Efshar de Shlomo gazar inami. Let's just see the next answer that Tosfos says over here. We just keep going over here. An alternative answer. Shlomo diber beribis deraisa. Shlomo's talking about the deraisa. The ribis deraisa. Rabbananhu de asmachuhu milsaihu akra didei. Umashanogu ata lehalvos lenachrim. Okay, after all of that lumdus, Tosfos is now going to tell us what comes out lamaisa, practically speaking. So before we do that, let's just see what it is that Tosfos said in this inami again. Every single step of this Tosfos has been a very difficult to understand what he's saying. Inami. Shlomo dibe ribis deraisa. Shlomo is talking about ribis deraisa. Rabbananhu de asmachuhu milsayu akra. Didei. And where is that they did that? They did that. No, he doesn't say where they did that.
I'm not following the translation. What is this de asmachu?
Oh, that's what that concept I could explain. Rabbanan, this is what I was saying before, actually. I was alluding to this. That the Rabbanan, sometimes when they make a prohibition to Rabbanan, they say, in fact, we find an allusion to this necessity that we are instituting, promulgating over here in the pasuk, and that's called an asmachta. An asmachta means that you have to understand there's two different types of things that the Torah tells us. The Torah tells us what's called the alfusa. A yalfusa means that the Torah is saying, this is what you got to do. This is what the Torah is commanding you to do, right? Even though it doesn't say so explicitly, but it's called the alfusa. Okay, now there's another madrega of what the Torah is telling us, and that's called an asmachta. An asmachta means that the Torah itself is saying that we, the Torah, so to speak, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is not saying that this is a mitzvah deraisa or an isser deraisa, but it's called an asmachta, which means that it's that there we find, says the Maharal, that this pasuk is alluding to the Ratzon Hashem, that Hashem would be merutze, he would be pleased and happy
You lost the rabbi.
No, he's
You
back.
froze. Please repeat the last 30 seconds.
Okay. An asmachta is an allusion in the pasuk that alludes to a desire on behalf of Hashem, who's the one that wrote the Torah, that the following thing should be done. It's not a Torah commandment, but it's something that would be pleasing to Hashem. You're not required to do it, mina Torah, but there's a basis. There's a basis for saying there's a clear hint that the Torah is hinting that this is something that would be a good thing. So the Rabbanan look at that pasuk and they say, "Oh, look at that! You see that that's what the Torah is saying." And we say, "Where does the Torah say that?" And we got to say, "Oh, well, the Rabbanan know how to see these things." So they say that this is what it says. Sometimes we can appreciate. That's what the Maharal Sefer is all about. He says, "Look here, I'll show you. You can appreciate this. You can appreciate what the Rabbanan saw in this pasuk over here. I'll explain to you what it is that they saw in this pasuk." Right? Sometimes, so that in any case, that's what the asmachta is. The asmachta is that the Rabbanan say we're making decree Aleph, and they're saying, and if you'll ask us why did we do this, we'll say, look at this pasuk over here. This pasuk is alluding to the necessity and the propriety of doing this. That's called an asmachta. That's an allusion. So that's what Tosfos is saying over here, that Shlomo Melech is talking about ribis deraisa. He's talking about ribis that the Torah prohibits. He's talking about something that the Torah prohibits, ribis deraisa. The Torah prohibits this type of ribis.
So in other words, David HaMelech is saying, if you make money by collecting interest that is prohibited by the Torah, it's going to be bad for you.
All right, good. And the Rabbanan came along and they said, and they made their decree, and they said, if you'll ask where did we see that it's proper to do such a thing, they point to the pasuk. Asmuchu akro, milsaihu akro. The word asmakta comes from the word somech, to lean on, to rely on. They relied on this pasuk as authority for the propriety of their decision. Their decision has been supported by the allusion in this pasuk.
And this pasuk is sashich.
That's it. Yeah, you're asking details over here about which pasuk. I don't know. I don't know.
All right. So going back to David HaMelech, so the kind of interest he's talking about is charging interest to a Jew. Because that's the one that's derisa, correct?
Well, according to that, for sure that's true. For sure, we know that there's ribis derisa to a Jew. Okay. Now, whether there's ribis derisa to a non-Jew, that would seem to be a machlokes in our Gemara. That's the way we learned the Gemara, that according to Rav Huna and Rav Nachman, there's also ribis derisa to a non-Jew as well.
I don't see that. But our time is up. Maybe we can review that.
Okay.
Seems to me they're saying that they're both saying it's permitted. They're disagreeing about what is permitted.
No, take a look again at the words of Rav Nachman. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar li Huna, lo nitztercha ela da'afilu ribis da'ovid kachavim. This pasuk of Shlomo Melech, we don't even need it to be talking about ribis that you make money off of a Jew. Of course, Shlomo Melech doesn't need to tell us that, you know what, if you lend ribis to a Jew, you're gonna get it. You're not gonna get any benefit from that. Oh, we need Shlomo Melech to tell us that. We believe in Torah. We believe that that's so. We don't need Shlomo Melech to tell us that. Says Rev.
That's
Says
not
Rev.
it's prohibited derisa. It's saying you're not going to benefit.
Do we need? We know that the Torah says that you're not allowed to lend ribis to a Jew, right?
Right.
So what's Shlomo coming to say? And not only that, I'll tell you, you won't benefit from it either.
Right.
Oh, yeah, that's what Shlomo Melech needs to tell us. We would have thought that we would be able to do an Issur Torah and benefit from it. And Shlomo Melech is telling us, no, don't think that you could do that.
All right. I'm confused.
Okay.
I'll have to review this. I'm confused about what Rav Nachman means here.
Okay, very good.
All right. Thank you very much, Rabbi.
We'll continue Ezrat Hashem. And we'll see. Well, yeah, what time is it now? We'll try to resume in 10 minutes. 15 minutes.
Okay. Thank you.